go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do a book recommendation tag I ran across here. This particular one is some 20 questions long. It was originated by one Steph Boer, if I'm saying that right. I'll put a link in the description. I happened across it, however, by Dutch Graybeard, and I perused his channel and we subscribed back and forth. And I have not looked over her website or her YouTube page just yet, but she's the originator and he's the one I found this with. So I'm gonna hop right to the, well, I had a couple of little limitations to throw at myself. It's easy to do Star Wars answers for some of these, so no Star Wars crap. And I decided for the most part to not repeat books because there's books that I could give multiple answers to on these. And there's one that I did, but for the most part, it's just one. There's no repeats through the question. So I'm going to get started here. Question one, a book you tell people is your favorite. Now, I don't know that this is the numero favorite book of all time for me. I will say this is one of the greatest reads I have ever had. This is Happy Hour in Hell. It is written by Tad Williams. It is the second book in a trilogy called Bobby Dollar. The reason this hit me, the first book, the intro here is that when you die, angels and demons show up and it's like a courtroom setting. And the angels are lawyers, acting as lawyers on this side, are trying to get you to go to heaven, and they're going through all your life. And the demons, of course, are going through all your negatives, and someone judges it, and you go up or you go down. So along the way, Bobby Dollar here falls in love with a succubus, but she knows her place in hell, and a Duke of Hell comes and takes her away. And he's like, no, I fell in love. I got to go save her. And so he has to give up his angel powers in order to not be detected. So he's just a regular person going through hell to try to find her. And line by line, page by page, period by period, I could not stop. I had to keep going on this book. Oh, the sun's out. No. People. No. I had to read that book and find out. And this did not disappoint at all. Tad Williams, Happy Hour in Hell. 2. A book that is your guilty pleasure. A Spell for Chameleon by Pierce Anthony, a Xanth novel. So these are very problematic and due in no small part to, well, this did have a bit of a female following, but like, depending on how your sense of humor, what your sense of humor is, you can get by things like a female character in here who she has 3 different personalities depending on her time of the month. She literally transforms into 3 different people. Okay, haha. The problem with this particular book is that the protagonist, on the way, he's on a quest to find what magic power he has, because everybody has at least a single magic power when he can't find his. Well, there's this little part that does nothing for the plot, it does nothing for anybody, but he comes into this town and there's a rape trial going on. And there are 3 men, 3 women. One of them is the accused, one of the is the accusee, but you don't know who's who. It's like trying to keep the identities of the parties unknown. And it just ends with this, well, if she hadn't gone with them, if she didn't trust them, she wouldn't have gone off with them. So I guess we call this kind of a draw, and nobody really may have done anything. They go about their separate business. It's like, oh, well, nobody was gonna vouch, so we're done here. It's just the strangest thing to throw in a book like that. Like, it's supposed to be funny. This is supposed to be a funny book, and there's nothing funny about that. So guilty pleasure. The rest of the book is actually really good. He goes on his adventure to find his power, lots of characters. It's a very good quest. It's very pun-like in its features. So guilty pleasure. I've only ever read the one. I only read it once. I decided not to continue though. A book everyone loved, but you didn't. So here we have Brandon Sanderson, Oathbringer. This is the 3rd in the Stormlight. The first book, I guess I basically liked because I did continue. The second book started getting real slow. just droning on. And when I got to this book, I said, if this keeps doing what the second book did, I can't go on. And I didn't even make 100 pages. Everybody just loves Brandon Sanderson. There's YouTube people who are very good friends with him and such. And nice guy, can't do his book. Just can't. A book that deserves more hype. So I bought this based on the cover. Someone posted this up. The Forgotten Beasts of Eld, and that is by Patricia A. McKillip. Look at that beautiful cover there. So this little lady here, she has basically a kind of a mind control or mind influencing power. She's surrounded by beasts, as you can see here. She winds up herself getting affected by someone else who has this same power. It's sort of like not only up close, but a long-range version of Jedi mind tricks and the voice in Dune, that kind of thing. And this just happened to come out when the newest Dune movie came out, and so I got very interested in this mind control power she has. This is a wonderful book to read. A book that you reread the most. Okay, so this came down to 3 books, and I didn't exactly keep a record. I think. Okay, so I've read Larry Niven's Protector, I believe 3 times. This is my gateway into Larry Niven. I didn't know who he was till I read this book, and this leads into his known universe and Ringworld and all that. I own like 35 books by Larry Niven, so I've read him more than any other author, and most of that is his known space stuff. This is a hard science fiction book. It is a first contact book. You learn things like what it's like to travel at 1G of acceleration, fusion drive, being on a signal ship, asteroid mining, what do they call them, magnetic monopoles to help out technology, and an alien who's been traveling for, 28,000 years our time, 2,000 years his time, because he's going so fast he's affected by time dilation, and he had the mental wherewithal to just sit there in probably no more room than someone on the space shuttle does to make that journey. So it's a great book. Good characters, mostly plot driven, and you kind of need to read this before you get into Ringworld. That would be my recommendation. If they ever do a Ringworld movie, I don't know how they'll skip this because there's things in there that need to be addressed here. Maybe as a streaming something, possibly, so you get it all. I don't know. Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash cyberpunk book, a little satirical. This is someone who is out to control the world with an old civilization operating system, as in the past people's minds were apparently a little simpler. And so there's a set of instructions that someone discovers on an ancient tablet, and he's going to broadcast a translation of it to control the minds of people now. And our guy here, his literal name is Hero Protagonist, goes through this dystopian world to stop the bad guys. Outstanding book. One of my favorite things in this has to do with this avatar that takes the form of a butler who lectures him on basically what I just told you about. It's a really great scene in that book. The Ill Earth War by Stephen Donaldson. I have read this twice straight through, but I like to, if not read the whole thing, go back and read certain passages. There's a little scene that's actually in the book there. This is an opera in book form. This is, I just, to give it description, it's, I don't want to say dark. It's just, it leaves you in a bad place. This is an anti-hero. He doesn't want to be the hero. He thinks he's in a coma, having a dream about being in a fantasy land. Everyone wants him to be the hero. He's the Messiah. He's the chosen one. He's going to save them all. He wants nothing to do with it because he thinks he's going to perform some kind of unconscious suicide because he's a leper. And one little mistake and he's a dead man. And dead in a way he's not going to like. And so he starts manipulating people. He commits an atrocity in the first book, Lord Fowl's Bane. And the repercussions of that atrocity come to fruition here. And like a 3-act play, this is the second act, leaves you in a very bad place. It's just outstanding reading right there. Suspenseful, the whole last act of that book. Alrighty. A book from a genre you don't typically read. I usually don't. I read mainly science fiction and fantasy. Occasionally, I have some Mark Greeny's The Gray Man, military thriller type deal. So, of the few just regular fiction books, here's Daniel O'Thunder by Ian Weir. So this is a pugilist. We're talking 1851, I think it is. 1851 London, England. And when you start reading through this, I wasn't there, but he makes you feel like 1851 London. This is, it's like you can almost smell it off the page. So this is an immersive environment this guy makes here. So you have this pugilist, prize fighter, who has a calling. I have to fight the devil himself, and he goes into the ring to, I don't want to say literally fight the devil, but he becomes essentially a preacher and uses boxing as his forum. And how shall I say, you'll be really interested in what form the devil himself takes. There's a great book there. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, really. If you've even never read it, you've probably heard of it. Look at this nice version of it I have. It's like a Bible. Gilded edges, the whole thing. So, just, it's wonderful. Probably one of the greatest scenes I've ever read in a book. It's the idea is that you can learn to fly by falling, and then something distracts you so much that you forget you're falling, and you take off flying. And him and a love interest go off flying together. It's a wonderful scene in the middle of basically a big funny book. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. So I have been doing this one a lot this year. Well, I guess just because I've been a booktuber, and so I started interacting with other booktubers, and this is what I've been doing primarily for people who, they're mainly fantasy readers, and they want to start to read more science fiction, but there might be science fiction that will turn them off completely. So this is like a nice little bridge, because it's actually space fantasy. This is the God Engines by John Scalzi. I love this cover so much. So that's a god there. They keep him prisoner, and he makes the ship fly around. Not at their request, at their command. So this starts setting up plot lines between the religious leader on the ship and the captain, and then you see some character conflicts coming, and then it just yanks the carpet right up from everybody. This is a novel. It's not very big. Won't take you long. One of the best things you'll ever read. A book that has your favorite characters. A favorite of all time? I don't know about that, but they're just so much fun. This is White Plume Mountain by Paul Kidd. Its flavor is like the movies Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is Guardians of the Galaxy in a fantasy land many years ago. This book came out. So here we have the Justicar, this guy right here. He is a ranger. And up here we have, if I'm pronouncing it right, Shala. She is a fairy, and she is also a magic user. And they have a whole entourage. They gather along the way on their adventures. She's intelligent and funny and irresponsible, shall we say. He has a sense of humor, but he's a pretty serious fellow, and their interaction between the two of them is what makes these books. This one is very game-like. This is a Dungeons and Dragons book. This one is most feels like a game, whereas it has two sequels that are just fantasy you could put in just about any world if you wanted to. So a couple good characters there. A book you wish you could live in. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. So it's a dystopia vaguely, because you do have very rich corporations that control everything, and very, poor folks that, spend their time in a gaming virtual reality world. So you don't really want to live in a dystopia, but the technology available here where you can put on a pair of goggles and go, as they say in the movie, climb Mount Everest with Batman if you wish to. I want to be able to go in and visit various worlds. It doesn't matter what you like. It could be Lord of the Rings, could be Star Wars, Star Trek, anything. Be a sub-commander, be anything. And in a virtual reality technology like this, you can go do all of that, and in various combinations. And that'd be the world I want to live in. And if technology keeps progressing as it is, and maybe I'll be able to do that at some point. A book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. So this is called Predator Turnabout, and that is by a very good author, Steve Perry. I have a number of books by him. I didn't think I liked this just because it's a book based on movies, most of which are not very good. First one, of course, is classic, but it just sounded maybe intriguing enough, because this is a predator versus a sniper versus a poacher who just happens to be a marksman and a tracker. So like, all right, well, let me give it a shot. Oh, it's so good. This is told primarily through the eyes of the sniper. He's a retired Vietnam Marine Scout sniper, and he's up in the Yukon, and the aliens come visiting. They're hunting too, and just the author did his homework so well, because I got so interested in snipers. I actually bought a couple of books that have to do with actual, the summary of actual sniper missions that took place in the history of snipers. I won't call myself an expert on the subject, but did I take an interest just because of this. And it should be no spoiler that at some point the sniper's going to take a shot at a predator. And when he does, like I said, he did his homework, and it was one incredible suspenseful moment. I just loved reading it. It's a fun book right there, Predator Turnabout. A book that made you cry. Okay, this is a hard one. I have to change this around for you. So give me a second here, because I racked my brain looking over my shelves, because like anyone, I've been moved by books, and they make you sad, they can make you angry, and they just really hit all your emotions. But I was looking over these shelves, and I was like, did anything here make me actually weep? And I couldn't think of anything until I remembered a webcomic. This is called, move these out of the way so I can get this set up for you. Right, I can't, this is the limitations of doing this on your phone. I can't just switch things around. It'll cut off the video, and I'm not going to do separate videos and try to cut it all together. So I am going to turn this towards my computer. What you are looking at is the Order of the Stick. This particular episode is 496, I believe. It is up to 1300. It's backwards for you just because the way this is turned. This is a Dungeons and Dragons webcomic. The characters know they're in a game. They kind of know they're in a webcomic. They broke the fourth wall every so often. What happens here? This fellow is named Roy Greenhilt, and he has been killed in battle. And he is waiting around for his party and friends to resurrect him, but he's still got to go through his heaven. He reunites with his mother. She informs him, hey, I got a room down the hall ready for someone you used to know. And you don't quite know what's going on. He's like, oh no, he's here? And he runs to the room, and he starts going on this monologue about how sorry he is that he couldn't do anything, even though it wasn't his fault. And he was sad and he was angry. And you come down here, and he says, it's good to see you, little brother. And here's his little brother who had died. He says, hi, Roy. Want to play blocks with me? More than anything, he starts weeping, and this got me. Oh, this got me. And it probably, too, in no small part, Then I have a couple nephews, and yes, I have gotten down on the floor, one of my greatest pleasures in life, and just played blocks and cars and whatever with my nephews. So that is what got me. Even now, just reliving it. All right, let's get back to business here. So, made you cry, a book you wish you could read for the first time. Let me set that back just a little bit. This is Senlin Ascends by Josiah Brancroft, and I flip this open, and here's what you see. So we have, let me get my glasses back on here. This is a tower, a very big tower. Here is a city that surrounds it. This is in the book, a legendary place. People do pilgrimages there. There are people that live in it. I had a little trouble trying to place the scale of it. It's got to be like at least a mile wide, and then it winds up being, miles high. When you start trying to put that in your head, something about it doesn't quite work, but it works wonderful on here. And this fellow here, Senlin, him and his wife go on their honeymoon to the tower, and oops, despite all warnings, his wife goes missing, and he has to go find her. And he gets into the tower. This first book, it's actually a bit satirical. There are 4 books. Like, for example, he gets in there, and it's a beer merry-go-round. So he has to pedal really fast, and the pedaling pumps the beer so you can get a drink of beer. And, rich to the poor. There's this, you go up a level, and it's just room after room that are exactly identical, but everyone goes up to play some kind of acting role, and you have to stoke the fire. The other person has to turn the lights on and off, that kind of thing. And you don't quite know what it is until it comes up in a later book. But this is his journey to find his wife, love of his life, someone he views as kind of above him. He was surprised that she went for him, but she did. And this is it's basically steampunk, but this is a very character-driven book and book series. It is outstanding to read. This is just wonderful literature is what that is. Right here, a book that could cure a reading slump. So not a book per se, well, sort of. Sometimes when people ask me about fixing a reading slump, I'll say, I don't know, quit reading for a few days, or perhaps you can go read some magazines or read some short stories. So here we have Ray Bradbury, The Illustrated Man. There are 3 stories I like that stand out above the rest that I liked. The first one is called The Belt, which is a family has a holographic simulation room, and the kids go in there and start fiddling around with it, and works probably something akin to the Star Trek holodeck in The Next Generation. The other one is called The Long Reign. These are a bunch of soldiers on Venus, although you can't really go on Venus, so it's a bit of an old book probably, or maybe it's been terraformed, but they're walking around on Venus, unending rain, and it's just literally draining the life out of them, and people start turning on each other. The other one, my favorite, is called The City, and this is where some people, it's from the point of view of the city, and it's intelligent, it's sentient, and it's laying dormant until people show up in rockets. It starts to examine them in a way that's rather horrible, but this would be a recommendation. This is The Other Side of the Sky. Is it? Yes, The Other Side of the Sky, Arthur C. Clarke. Primarily, it's just the one short story in here that really hits beyond all others. It's called The 9 Billion Names of God, where monks using a supercomputer to calculate all the names of God, and what a shocking ending when they finally come up with the solution. And then this wonderful thing, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this name, Hanu Rajanimi, The Invisible Planets Collected Edition, and the story here is called, I want to get the order right, The Server and the Dragon. This is a short story where this device is sent out outside the galaxy, and it takes form. There's material out there. It's like a Dyson sphere, huge swarm, powerful processing ability, and it keeps track of what's going on in the galaxy. But everything's slower than light still, so it's not real time. There's no faster light travel, and the denizens of the galaxy are called the network, and they're all communicating and going to war with each other. And he likes to fool around, or it likes to fool around rather, in a virtual reality they created, and he takes the form of a dragon when he gets a call. And someone shows up to pay a visit, and they come in, they're invited into the VR, and it also turns into a dragon. And then, well, I don't want to spoil it for you. Server and the Dragon. I've never found it free online, so you probably have to get the book. A book you think everyone needs to read. Okay, come on now. Lord of the Rings. You got to read Lord of the Rings. This was with me as a child when I saw the animated features that came on TV. I didn't know they were books. And then afterwards, of course, I found they were books, but I didn't read it. This was in the 80s, so I didn't read these till just a few short years ago. So this, I saw the Pete Jackson films and everything. So the story's been with me so long. When I finally did read these, it didn't really hit me the way it would have maybe if I'd read it as a younger person. But it's damn good, and it's the greatest fantasy series of all time. I won't call it my favorite. My favorite is the Chronicles of Thomas Cumberland the Unbeliever. But this is the king. This is the one, right there. Lord of the Rings. Everyone needs it. Or just watch the movies, but you should read the book too. A book you think would make an amazing movie. So this is another Clark book, Rendezvous with Rama. So you can kind of see it there. What it is a vast cylinder. It's miles long, a few miles wide, and it rotates, so there's gravity on the inside, and they detect this coming into the solar system. So they send a ship out to intercept it and to get inside it, and slowly but surely they start to wake it up, or it might be waking up on its own just because it detected them in there. And it's just a journey through the environment. Decent enough characters, but this is totally an environment-driven book, and the visuals alone that one could potentially do here, walking around and exploring this mega structure as a spacecraft coming through our solar system would be, I would love to see this as a movie, at least as much as I'd like to see, mega structures like Ringworld. A book you'll never forget. I think I lost the jacket. So Project Hail Mary. This is by Andy Weir, and so what's happening here is that there's something eating the sun, and they detect that something else is eating another sun somewhere. And I figured there might be a way to figure out what's going on at this other solar system. So the whole world gets together to make a spacecraft, build the technology, and get somebody out there. And this school teacher that's in this book essentially gets forced and tricked into it. And it starts with him waking up with amnesia because they were in hibernation, sleeping. And so the past of how he got there is unraveled as he starts going through his memory. It's a book of survival. It's a book of friendship, interstellar friendship, and everything's, this is a hard science fiction book. Someone I know did some math, and few things don't quite work out, but otherwise it's pretty sound in its physics, that kind of thing. And the ending to this book is not what I was expecting or wanting up until I read it, and I'm like, oh, that's just beautiful the way this ends. It's a great book. It's the kind of thing where you sit back and you say, there's a lot of action in movies that we like, even big explosion movies, That's not what this is. That is just an outstanding read all around. Character, plot, everything you want in a book right there. So it is time to tag some people. And here's what we're going to do. The first person I'm going to tag is the first person who ever tagged me in a video to do. This is Read by Fred, and I want to see him do this 20 questions book recommendation tag. He likes doing these. He's done quite a few book tag videos. I went through, I didn't see that he did this, so I'm sort of curious as to how he's going to answer. The other one, the second one, is Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. If you want to sit smiling your ass off while having just a wonderful listen to somebody who is sunshine talking about books, you go to Books I'm Not Reading with Kelly. It's a wonderful lady. This one here, the third one, is a new channel. This is Mackenzie, or I'm sorry, it's McKenna Loves Content. So McKenna Loves Content. I said her name wrong. And this is a new channel. She only got 5 videos, and I'm quite jealous because she got 5 videos. Her very first video got 18,000 views. I've got something over 30 videos now. I ain't even got 5,000. What are you gonna do? Oh well, she got a good channel. I like it. We're gonna keep up with her. And the last one, but not least one, it's Chanel at Chanel Chapters. She also has another channel called Chanel Days. The other one's more crafty, but Chanel Chapters is about books. This woman, she's reading like at least a book a day. She has a video where she says she read 511 books last year. It's crazy. I can kind of read a book a day before I get tired, maybe. I have to force myself. I did read a book a day, like I said earlier. I read a book a day. I've done that a few times, but I couldn't read all day, every day. I don't think I could do it. But I told her I would tag her, and I wanted to find out what she's going to say here. She recommended this, which I'm going to do a video on, A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. This is crazy. Now, this is only 104 pages. If this 104 pages going to kick you in the mind. This guy, he dies and goes to hell. And he finds out that there's only one real religion, all the rest are bunk. And the demon tells him, well, there's only about 100,000 people who follow this one, so you're here instead of off in your heaven, and this is the hell I'm going to assign you to. It's mind-numbing numbers. When we say things about infinity, we're like, oh, whatever, infinity. But this starts hitting you with numbers that you can kind of comprehend. When you start comprehending those numbers, they start to hurt a little bit. So just quickly, he says, in the beginning of the book, he had been at least walking light years. He's walked light years. He's been there so long. Even if you get killed in some way, you're just going to wake up the next day back in your body. So you can't escape that way. And so to walk light years, the nearest star to our sun is 4.25 light years away. And if you marched at like 2 to 3 miles per hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it would take you almost 1 billion years to get just to the nearest star. And there's like 100 or 200 billion stars in our Milky Way, and that's the closest one. And that's the tip of the iceberg of how far and long this guy goes. It's outstanding. This might be one of my new regular recommendations, aside from the God Engine up there. So that is it. The only thing I'm doing new, I read Annihilation last week, and I liked it so much. There's 2 more books, and I'm going to go get them probably tomorrow. I just saw something in the news the other day that there will be a 4th book, and that's it's called the Southern Reach series, and I'm hooked. I got it. They got me. He got me. Vandermeer. That's it. Long video here. Sorry about that. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.